apologise for interrupting even before it started the stories. I just wanted to come here and say a few things, basically. So, secondly, I would also like to apologise again because I will probably use a few filler words, and so being the main ones, and that would be because I'm not reading from a script almost. I usually will be reading stories, so it's dead easy to just obviously read the words. So yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. This next video will be different in terms of length. I've only included 3 stories. I'm going to see whether shorter videos, so around the 20 to 30 minute mark, do better than longer videos. So usually my videos would have between 5 and 8 to 9 stories, whereas this one has got 3, and the next few videos I'm going to release will also have just the 3 stories. So if you can please let me know in the comments what it is that you prefer, whether you like longer videos, longer videos with more stories, or shorter ones. What's happening is I'm trying to balance what I like, because I'm a fan of ASMR, and I'd prefer to not watch anything less than 30 minutes, because I will listen to ASMR to fall to sleep. So I know that if I was to listen to a video that's 30 minutes or less, that it will end before I fell to sleep. So yeah, if that makes sense, hopefully. So if you can just leave a comment, please, in the comments, and just let me know whether you prefer longer videos or shorter ones, and then I can try and go down that route in creating those kind of videos. I'm new to YouTube, so yeah, I just want to create what you want, almost. So yeah, thank you, and yeah, the stories are going to start in the next 3 seconds. I used to work overnight security for a downtown office complex. Nothing fancy, just one of those jobs you take when you're trying to stay afloat. The building was a mix of law offices, startups, a language school on the 3rd floor, and some digital marketing company that always left coffee cups everywhere. I worked alone, midnight to 8 AM. The complex had 16 floors, but after 10 PM, only the ground floor and basement lights stayed on. Everything else stayed locked and dark. I had keys to every door, a flashlight, and a radio that no one ever used because no one else was there. What I'm about to tell you still messes with me. Not because I can explain what happened, but because I can't explain how it started, or why it never really ended. It began with a single call, 3:07 AM, middle of a Tuesday night. The phone at the front desk rang, an old desk phone with a hardwired line that never got used unless a tenant forgot something. I picked it up. All I heard was static. Not loud, just a soft hiss, like a tape deck running with no audio. Then it clicked dead. Weird, but not the first prank call I'd got on and shift. I shrugged it off. Next night, same time, 3:07 AM, the phone rang again. This time, there was a voice. Just one word. Watching. The voice was quiet, male, breathy like someone trying not to be heard, and then, click. I stood there staring at the receiver, wondering if I'd imagined it. The sound hadn't come through loud or clear, but I was certain that's what I'd heard. So I walked the whole building that night, checked every emergency exit, every floor, nothing. Every door locked, no signs of forced entry, no lights on. But when I reached the 4th floor, just as I turned the corner near the elevators, I saw a flicker, a movement in one of the glass office doors. It was so fast, I thought it was a reflection at first, but something felt off. The door was closed, the lights inside were off, but I could feel someone had just been standing there. I opened the door and stepped inside. The air was still, not cold, but unmoving, like the whole room was holding its breath. I scanned with my flashlight. Nothing. Then I looked out the window. There was a man staring in. Thing is, we were 4 stories up. No balcony, no ledge, just glass and air and that man, pressed up against the window from the outside, face almost against the pane. I flinched back so hard, I nearly dropped my flashlight. But when I looked again, he was gone. I ran to the window, but there was nowhere to go out there, just the empty drop to the street below. The next morning, I told the day manager. He laughed it off, said it was probably a leftover decal or something catching my reflection. But the following night, again at 3:07 a.m, the phone rang. This time, he said, "You saw me." Then silence. I walked that building top to bottom. I stayed on the 4th floor for almost an hour, just pacing the hallway, trying to prove I'd imagined it. Around 4 a.m, I noticed something scratched into the paint on one of the walls. At first, I thought it was a scrape from a car or something being moved. But no, it was writing, scratched in jagged letters, like someone used a key or maybe a coin. It read, "Not a reflection." I called the number the front desk phone had recorded. Our phone system saved incoming call logs, though it didn't show caller ID, but there was no match to any internal extension. That was when I stopped feeling like it was a prank, because whoever, or whatever, was doing this, they weren't just messing with me, they were making it personal. The last night I worked there, I stayed at the desk, refusing to do another walkthrough. I kept the lobby lights on bright, kept the flashlight close. Sure enough, 3:07 a.m, the phone rang. This time, no whisper, just the sound of knuckles tapping on glass, slow, like someone right behind me, but distorted, like it was underwater. Then a second click. I turned. All the glass in the lobby, the big street-facing panes, looked fine. But in one of them, I could see a faint outline. Not reflection, a silhouette, inside the glass itself. It didn't move, it didn't blink, it just watched. I backed away, grabbed my jacket, and walked out of the front doors without locking up. I didn't stop until I reached the Tim Hortons 3 blocks away and sat in their parking lot until the sky turned grey. I quit the next morning. A week later, I drove by on my way downtown, and from the 4th floor window in that same office I'd walked into, there was something still pressed up against the glass. A smudge, a faint outline, like someone had never left, like someone was still watching. I used to work night shifts at a call centre in Toronto, just off Queen Street. The building sat next to a closed textile factory, graffiti-covered walls, broken windows, nothing inviting. The whole block had this strange, dead energy after midnight. My shift ran from 4 p.m. to midnight. Buses were spotty by the time I finished, so I'd usually walk a few blocks to the 24-hour streetcar stop under the Bathurst overpass. I made that walk 5 nights a week, knew every crack in the pavement, every flickering street lamp, every dumpster where raccoons like to fight. But one Friday night, something changed. It started normal. Midnight rolled around, I clocked out, zipped my hoodie, and headed out into the cold. It was early spring, still chilly, but not enough to see your breath. There weren't many cars on the road, just that low hum of city silence. I turned onto the underpass path, expecting to see the same busted traffic light and maybe a guy sleeping under the far bench. Instead, there was a man standing perfectly still, right in the middle of the sidewalk. He was facing away from me, thin, medium height, wearing a too big brown coat and dark jeans. His arms hung at his sides, not moving. I slowed down. At first, I figured he might be waiting for someone, or just zoning out. People do weird stuff in this city. It doesn't always mean anything. But something about him made me hesitate. The streetlight above him was blinking, one of those slow, rhythmic flickers, and every time the light came back on, it showed his shadow, bent and wrong. It didn't match his posture. His arms were still, but the shadows looked slightly lifted, as if they were held a few inches out. I looked closer. No, not just out, angled, like elbows were being held up, but the hands weren't in view. The whole silhouette was subtly off. I stopped walking. I was about 15 feet away. I tried to shift my angle, hoping it was just the light playing tricks, but it didn't change. I stood there, debating whether to walk past or just cross the street and take the long way to the next stop. That's when he moved. Not turned, not walked, just tilted, like his whole body leaned slightly forward without shifting his feet. It was such a small thing, maybe an inch of motion, but I felt this sudden burst of adrenaline, like my body recognised something my brain hadn't caught up with. I stepped back. The man didn't respond. I turned and started walking back the way I came. After 5 steps, I heard something drag behind me. Not a footstep, a scrape, like a boot dragging behind someone who doesn't lift their feet. I didn't look. I cut through a side alley I normally avoided because it stank like piss and garbage. Halfway through, I glanced over my shoulder. He was standing at the mouth of the alley, not chasing, just watching. Except his head was tilted, not turned toward me, tilted up, like he was looking at the tops of the buildings. I ducked behind a dumpster. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, called a rideshare, told myself it was probably just some drugged out guy or someone off their meds, or both. The app said it'd take 6 minutes. I peeked again. Gone. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. But right where he'd stood, something was on the ground. I told myself to leave it, don't be stupid, but I edged forward a little to see. It was a small plastic card. I recognised the type. It was a visitor badge from St. James's Hospital. They used them for long-term care and psychiatric visits. No name on it, just a barcode, and a sticker with the word expired across the bottom. I didn't pick it up. The car arrived, I got in, locked the doors, and went straight home. The next night, I begged my manager to let me leave before midnight. He said no, I was stuck. So I stayed late again, but this time I didn't go toward the overpass. I headed east and took the long route, which was well lit and near an all-night diner. Slower, but safer. I was halfway there when I heard the dragging again. Not close, not loud, but definitely behind me. I walked faster, didn't run, just picked up pace. When I reached the stop, there were 3 other people waiting. A couple talking quietly, and an older man in a suit. I figured I was safe. Then, the old man turned to me. "Did he follow you?" he asked. I blinked. "What?" "The guy with the weird arms. Did he follow you again?" I stared at him. "What do you mean, again?" He pointed to the underpass. "You saw him last night, right? You made eye contact." "No, wait, what do you mean, again?" The man looked at me, genuinely sad. "You shouldn't have looked back. That's how he knows." I took the next streetcar and got off 5 stops early, walked the rest of the way home in a completely different direction. I never saw the old man again, never saw the guy under the overpass either. But last month, on the walk back from my new job, different part of town, different hours, I passed a construction barrier near the subway line, and right there, on a concrete slab, was a plastic card. Hospital visitor badge. This one didn't say expired. It said, returning. I moved into a mid-rise building last September. 6 floors, built sometime in the 70s. It was what I could afford, close to work, half-decent neighbourhood, mostly quiet. I lived in Unit 304. Directly across the hall was Unit 302. I never met the tenant, not once, but I heard them. Usually between 1 and 3 a.m. every few nights. There'd be this soft, repetitive thud, like something gently knocking, not on my door, but somewhere inside the walls. Sometimes a low dragging sound, like furniture being shifted slowly, but nothing extreme, just strange enough that I noticed. The hallway camera above the elevator faced our floor. One night, I asked the super casually if he could check who was in and out around 2 a.m. He looked at me like I was fishing for gossip. Nobody's lived in 302 for months, he said. Guy passed away in June. His niece is supposed to clear it out, but she keeps postponing. I asked if maybe someone else had keys. He shrugged. Only me and her. I didn't ask more, but after that, I paid closer attention. That night, I stayed up with all the lights off and a chair by the peephole. Around 2:12 a.m, I heard it. That soft, rhythmic thudding. Not loud, but steady. Like someone tapping lightly on drywall with their fingers. It lasted maybe a minute, then nothing. But I kept watching through the peephole, expecting to see someone leave 302. No one did. When I checked again an hour later, there was a small object on the hallway carpet, right in front of my door. It was a button, worn, off-white, like from a winter coat. It looked old. I didn't touch it, just stared at it. Eventually swept it up with a dustpan and tossed it. Over the next week, I started hearing the noises more often. Not just thuds and tapping. Once, it sounded like muffled whispering, but with that strange quality where it feels like it's inside your room, even though you know it isn't. One night, I came home and found my apartment door unlocked. I'm obsessive about checking it, always pull twice after locking, but that evening, the deadbolt was sitting wide open. I felt this slow creep in my gut. Nothing was missing, but I could tell something had been disturbed. There were 3 buttons on my kitchen counter, none of them mine. They didn't match anything I owned, same as the first, worn, fabric still clinging to the backs. I called the super the next morning, told him I thought someone might be using a spare key. He got annoyed and said no one else had access. When I pressed him about 302 again, he sighed. That niece finally came last week, he said. Took some boxes. Said she'd be back soon to finish the rest, and hasn't returned. I asked if he'd seen her since. He said no. That day after work, I came home to a sticky note on my door. It was folded in half, with my name written in small, blocky letters. No one else in the building even knew me. Inside was a single word. Wait. No explanation, no signature. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark again, watching the hallway. Just past 3 a.m, I saw something I still can't make sense of. The door to Unit 302 opened slowly. No sound, no creaking, just this smooth, deliberate swing outward. And then, no one stepped out. No footfall, no shadows, just the door, wide open. I watched for 10 minutes, nothing happened. Eventually, I opened my door just enough to peek out. The hallway was still, no draft, no hum from the elevator. The only sound was the soft buzz of the light overhead. I crept across to the door of 302. It was fully ajar. Inside was pure darkness. I whispered, "Hello?" No answer. I should have turned back, but curiosity pulled me forward. I pushed the door wider and took one cautious step in. The air inside felt untouched, like a museum room sealed for years. I couldn't see much, just a vague outline of furniture beneath white sheets. Boxes stacked near the far wall, everything thick with dust. But on the floor, in the corner of the living room, was a pile of buttons, dozens of them, arranged in a neat circular shape, some cracked, some rusted, all different sizes, but laid out intentionally. Behind me, the door creaked softly. I turned, no one there, but now I heard it again, that same whispering, but clearer, closer, like it was right behind the wall, right behind me. I backed out of the unit slowly, shut the door as quietly as I could, and didn't stop until I was back inside mine, all the locks bolted. I left the building the next morning and didn't return until I could break my lease. A few weeks later, I got curious and searched the address online. The man who died in 302 had lived alone for almost 30 years. According to a small article, he worked as a tailor out of his unit, sewing garments for theatre productions. His obituary mentioned no family except for a niece, but no one ever came back for his things. And sometimes, when I pass that street on the bus, I swear I see a light on in that window, still flickering, still waiting,